Good evening. I'm Sam Chiverton, the clerk to today's meeting of the Joint Public Protection Committee. And on behalf of the members, I'd like to welcome you all. Before we start the meeting, I would like to explain, for the benefit of members of the public who may be watching, that tonight's meeting is being held both over Teams and with councillors present in the council chamber in Times Square, Bracknell. The meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, so members of the public are able to follow proceedings. The committee members in attendance are councillors Iskander Jeffries, Sharice Welch and Nick Allen from Bracknell Forest Council and Councillor Tom McCann from West Berkshire Council. Councillor Jeremy Cottam has joined the meeting remotely. We have also been joined by Councillor Lou Timlin from Wokingham Borough Council, who is attending the meeting as a guest. We would need to suspend standing orders in order to allow Councillor Timlin to speak or ask any questions at any point in the meeting. Members are being supported by a number of officers from two partner authorities, including from the Public Protection Partnership and Narinder Brar from Wokingham Borough Council. Narinder Brar from Wokingham Borough Council is also in attendance as a guest. Officers are in attendance either in person or remotely. For any votes, members of the committee in the council chamber are the only ones who take part in the formal decision. They will be asked to vote by raising their physical hand. Can I please ask everyone present in the meeting area to make sure they switch their microphones on when invited to speak, and to speak directly into them, and to switch them off when they are finished speaking. As this is the first meeting of the municipal year, As this is the first meeting of the municipal year, we will be starting the meeting with the election of the chairman for the 25-26 municipal year. Are there any nominations for chairman?
Councillor Jeffries, I would like to nominate Councillor Tom McCann.
Does that find a seconder?
Councillor Nick Allen, happy to second.
Are there any further nominations? In that case, can members please vote by raising their hands? That's unanimous. Councillor Tom McCann has been elected chairman for the Joint Public Protection Committee for the 2025-26 municipal year.
Yep, first mistake, push your microphone. Well, thank you very much for the election. I'd like to find a nomination for the vice chair. Apologies.
We have had apologies from Councillor Howard Williston.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 3, we'll be looking for a vice chair this year. Do we have any nominations?
I would like to propose Candy Jeffries for vice chair.
And I'm Councillor Allen. I'm happy to second that.
Is there no other nominations? Then all those in favour, please raise your hand. Duly elected.
Thank you.
Moving swiftly on to item number 4, the minutes.
Councillor Jeffries, I'd like to propose the minutes as a correct record.
Councillor Allen, I can be happy to second.
Okay. All those in favour, please raise your hand. No one against, that's unanimous. Moving on to item 5, I've been informed that a date request in respect to the annual vaping report, pages 11 through 12. Who would be the lead speaker on this one?
Happy to take that one, Chairman. Just to say that we had an action to make sure that we had additional data included in the report, and that is now happening as part of the annual process, so we can remove that from the list of outstanding actions going forward.
Okay, thank you very much, and that is noted in the minutes. Is there declarations of interest? Do we have any members who have a declaration of interest, either with us presently or watching?
None received, Chair.
Thank you, so noted. Well, we really are cantering through this evening, aren't we? Public questions, item 7. Do we have any public questions? Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 8, pages 13 to 16 in your papers. And I think I'll pass this over to one of the officers.
Chairman, so you'll note on the forward plan, the first item on the forward plan was that we were intending to hold a special meeting in July, possibly the 29th of July, but we've decided that we'd bring the item forward to a special meeting, which will take place immediately after this meeting this evening. If there are any other additional changes to the forward plan as we go through discussions, then we'll make sure, obviously, that they're added in advance of the next meeting.
Do any members have any questions with that? No. I'm not sure what the format is about asking officers to speak, but if officers do feel they need to interject, please just indicate, so that as the new guy here, I don't want you to feel I'm charging through this at a canter. But do feel free to just raise your hand so and indicate I can actually. Moving on to item 9, terms of reference.
Chairman, before we start this item, as the clerk indicated when he was doing his introduction, would members be willing to suspend standing orders to allow Lou Timlin to speak on any of the items this evening?
I would propose that we suspend our standing orders, if I have a seconder.
Councillor Jeffreys.
All those in favour, please indicate. Raise your hands. It's so carried.
I'll keep this one brief. Members will be aware that every year, for the first meeting of the year, we always bring the terms of reference along for members to have sight of them, but also if there are any kind of changes, that this would be the time that we could go through them. Members will also be aware that we have a paper later on the agenda, or on the special agenda, which relates to proposed changes to the governance of the committees. If that's agreed, then we will obviously have to take the terms of reference through the decision-making process, and which would be through the constitutional processes at West Berkshire Council. So a report going to the full council at West Berkshire about any of these changes will include a recommendation on changing the terms of reference to that effect. That's all I have to say.
Do any members have any questions on this particular subject?
Yeah, so we're about to agree. Yeah, I'm thinking about on item 4, the membership, which may or may not change depending on the special meeting we'll be having later on. So, is that the particular part that might be changing later? Because obviously, if we're going to vote on it now, are we then encumbered by the 6-month rule, or does the special meeting fix that?
So the 6-month rule can be overridden where there's a material change in circumstances, and obviously a change to the inter-authority agreements would constitute that. So it wouldn't be a problem for that. And in any event, we're only noting that this item here tonight, the decision would be made at a full council meeting in terms of the governance, if that's what you're referring to.
I have one question. What is the earliest date this can be brought before the council at West Berkshire? Do we know?
So we have been looking at the decision paths to get it through, and I think that the earliest will be to be able to take it to the executive meeting, I think, which is in September, and then there's full council meeting in October or November. But they have looked at the path, and we will take it through the earliest possible meetings. But we have to do that obviously across all three authorities. So I think Wokingham and West Berkshire have quite similar dates. Bracknell's dates are slightly ahead, so I think it would probably have to go to the September council meeting in Bracknell if we're going for the October meeting.
Thank you. Could you keep the non-local members informed of when the dates come up for each of the other authorities, so we could at least be kept abreast of in case there's any unforeseen obstacles? That would be helpful, I think.
Happy to take an action away where I'll circulate the path for everybody so that it's clear to everybody where the different reports will be going.
Thank you. If there are no other comments on Moira, your microphone's still on. Is there any other comments on this section? And be quite happy to move forward. Thank you. Moving on to item 10, pages 23 to 68 in your agenda.
Thank you, Chairman. So, just for a reminder, really, for reference, that one of the roles of this committee, set to it by the inter-authority agreement, is to keep under review the performance and activity of the Public Protection Service, so the shared service, and that includes basically the financial performance as well as the outputs of the service. Also, as part of this report, members who were at the last meeting may recall that the peer review recommended that we have a look at the KPIs for the service and see if we could make them, I think for want of a better word, perhaps a bit more meaningful for members. And we have some proposals which I think Moira will come on to at the end of my presentation of this report, but also to tie the KPIs and give a very clear explicit link between the KPIs and the corporate priorities of the three partner authorities. So Moira, as I say, will come on to that hopefully at the end of the report. So really just starting through, so the report basically is broken down into two basic sections. The first bit gives you I suppose what you could regard the kind of health of the service. And the second part of the report gives you an operational update. And then there is an appendix with the end of year outturn report for the existing performance indicators, and also some details around complements and the various functions that are formed in each area. So just starting with finance, it was a very difficult year from the point of view of finance. Managing it this year is probably the most difficult we've had. We've had a developing income shortfall that's been developing over a number of years, and members of the committee who've been on for a while will know that. So we had to manage effectively a £179,000 income shortfall that's developed probably over a long period of time, hastened by COVID. The end of year outturn position was £124 underspent, so we were kind of quite pleased with that. But it was challenging to achieve that because what it really meant was that we had to hold a number of vacancies open for a significant period of time, basically to ensure that we didn't overspend and have an impact on the partner authorities. So the performance report basically set out in the context of that challenge that we face. What I can report to the committee is that the budget has now been rebuilt, and we have once and for all basically removed unachievable income targets from the service. It has meant that basically cutting some posts permanently, but what it does mean is that basically we're not constantly chasing unachievable targets, and it's a better position from a financial management point of view for us basically to be in. The other thing to say about the fees, and the other thing to say is that the fees and charges were adopted by the authorities and took effect on the 1st of April based on the hourly rate that was agreed by this committee in October 2024. So just very quickly in terms of staffing issues, I'm pleased to report that since the report was written, that we've now filled the licensing officer vacancy that we had, so that team is now fully staffed. We had a lot of applications for the public protection community role, which was a sort of 2-year contract basically funded by public health and community safety grants, including police and crime commissioner money, which we've been successful at attracting over the last few years. And I in fact actually got a meeting here with the public health team at Bracknell about extending some of that work into the borough here. There are a number of posts out to applicants, up to advertisement at the moment. So there is a vacant training standards officer post out, a vacant environmental health officer post, an investigator post, and I'm pleased to report that actually the vacant case management officer lawyer post was filled last week. So all in all, good, a good position and a better position than we've been for a while. Further posts will be going out, and I think they may have even gone out now. So we were successful in securing funding for 2 training standards officers in the service, and that funding was we secured that from the Department of Health, and it was a commitment to 4 years of funding for 2 posts on the back of the new tobacco and vaping legislation, which is due in. So those posts will work across the 3 authorities. Certainly the fact that basically I think it was a shared service enabled us to recruit to achieve the funding for 2 posts. So I think those adverts are either not out already, they will be out very, very shortly. So that's positive. Just in terms of training and development, we continue with the work around the sort of Grow Your Own programme that members of the committee will be very familiar with. We've got 2 members of staff finishing their MSCs now, and we've approved a further one to go into the MSc Environmental Health programme. As I mentioned already, we've secured funding for 2 more standards trainees. We're now basically geared up to provide all of the safeguarding training for Hackney Garage and private hire drivers ourselves. And we're exploring providing the disability awareness training as well, basically, which could give us a new income stream. And I'm pleased to report that one of the level 4 regulatory services officers that we brought in is just about to conclude his higher certificate qualification in food premise inspection. So it's what we said we would do. We would grow our own staffing basically because we know that recruitment is difficult. So just moving on to governance, it was a busy quarter, I think, for FOIs. We did 426 hours of FOI work within the service this quarter. A fair number, 43 inquiries from councillors and MPs, which slightly increased basically from the previous quarter last year. So that I think basically deals with the oh yes, and just to say that we've also basically implemented a new website, and for those that haven't seen the Public Protection Partnership website for a while, I think it's fair to say it's a lot better as a site. Basically, it's a lot cleaner, and it had basically a total of 38,000 visits in the last quarter from a total of 16,000 unique users. So that took us to an end-of-year total of 152,000 views, as opposed to up from 87 the previous year. So the website continues to become a significant resource for residents and businesses. So my colleagues are online, Chairman. If you're happy, I would like to invite Rosalind Gator to just give an update on those areas that Rosalind's responsible for. Thank you.
No problem at all.
Thank you. The areas that I deal with basically are in the table number 10, improved living environment. Now, what that covers is basically people living in their homes. It covers reactive work on statutory nuisance, for example. It covers housing standards in private rented properties and in registered social landlords. It also covers caravan site licensing. As you can see, there's been a lot of work done over the year. What we've tried to show you in this as well is the breakdown of service requests that we get into the housing team, and how many of those are those of registered social landlords, from the tenants of registered social landlords, and how many are from the private rent sector. So it's probably around averaging 50% of the complaints that we get through are from registered social landlords. We work with all tenures, private rental sector and registered social landlords to improve the standards in the home by inspections. The main housing condition service requests that we get through are to do with damp and mould. Normally these increase over the winter months, but we do see that the levels of damp and mould are quite high all year round. So we do a lot of work in properties with that. We've also, at the end of the year, we got all of the caravan site licensing visits carried out. There's 24 sites, there's actually 12 in each area. And basically that's their annual inspection where we look at if they're compliant with their conditions on their license. That's basically to do with the site safety rather than the individual caravan safety. We're also doing a lot of work over the last year on unlicensed HMOs, that's houses of multiple occupation. And essentially what we're doing is we're using intel to target properties where we believe that they are acting as unlicensed HMOs. And if we do find them, then we'll take them through the licensing. And there's some that we will take on to enforcement also. So that's the work in the housing team.
Thank you very much for your input. Is there any other?
Yeah, could I just pick up a couple of other parts of the report that I think may be worth drawing out for members? So one of them I just want to raise is in relation to some of the work that's been undertaken around unfair trading and fraud. So we have the end of year figures there at 11.3, and this is just the detriment identified from victims within the PPP administrative area, so the 3 boroughs. You can see that was close to £1.4 million by the end of the financial year. That is only a proportion of the money that is connected with some of the activities of some of these traders, because clearly obviously there will be a number of people outside of the 3 authority area which are affected and may well form part of our investigations, which are funded basically where we seek funding where there are people outside of the area. The total number of incidents related to sort of householder unfair trading and fraud type of work was 191 across the area, but we were successful in recovering basically around about £230,000 for people, basically either by direct intervention or by direct recovery. So I just wanted to draw that out, and the early indications from the first couple of months of this year is that shows no sign of abating, basically. So the other thing I just want to pick up was that there was a question earlier on about age-restricted products. Now, as a result of pooling the resources from the Offensive Weapons Grant and other funding that we've had across the 3 authorities, we have been able to employ an officer to focus on age-restricted products. And at 12.11, you can see basically the number of test purchases that were conducted in Q4. So you can see there was 58 vape ones, 6 sales, lottery 5, 1 sale, alcohol 34, 6 sales, knives 18, 1 sale, and then tobacco 1 and 1 sale. We've started basically, and there have been a number of test purchases done since then, and for anybody that follows our social media feed, you'll be able to see the outcome of that. So, you know, any sale is disappointing, and that they're being looked at basically now, and we'll make a determination of what needs to happen next. Also, we're looking basically on the back of the funding that we've had to introduce a responsible retailer scheme, and that's been considered for introduction in the latter part of this year. Just, Rosalind, I don't know whether you want to add anything about food hygiene, but I'll just cover off very quickly the food standards figures. So food standards, for those that don't know, as opposed to food hygiene, is the training standards inspections that look at basically things like that look at things like basically the quality labelling claims on food, and that can be anything from health claims to organic claims. And I'm pleased to say that across the 3 authorities, because this is something that is also undertaken in Wokingham as well as West Berkshire and Bracknell, that were a total of 1,137 inspections were conducted, which have pretty well got us back on track. I'll leave Rosalind, if that's okay, Chairman, to just very quickly update on where we got to with the food hygiene inspections.
Absolutely.
Thank
Rosalind.
Thank you. So the food hygiene inspections over the last couple of years, we've been playing a catch-up game following COVID, because a lot of the officers basically were involved with COVID, and food businesses, as you remember, were closed and not available for inspection. So we've been trying to catch up. Like this last year, we did an awful lot of work, and we have basically caught up on all of the high risk. So that's the A's, B's, and C's. With the D premises that we were behind on, we got 93% completed. So there's only probably about 50 Ds left that are outstanding. And in the unrated premises, we got 82% carried out. So that was a very great, a great lot of work done by the team. Essentially now what we're doing is we've got the visits that we have this year to carry out. And we will add on the ones that are outstanding into this year and try to basically get back to where we like to be of 100%. And those will be the visits that we'll be carrying out this year. The team also do reactive work, so they look at service requests coming through on food hygiene matters and on health and safety matters, and they investigate accidents. So accidents that are reportable come through to us, and we carry out investigations of those. Thank you.
Thank you for your report.
So just very, very quickly then into the last section, section 18. Just this is around investigation work and case management. So as I explained earlier, there are a large volume of investigations still going on, primarily around unfair trading, fraud. And so the investigation team, this is a specialist team that is shared across the three authorities, have 22 ongoing what we call level 2 and level 3 investigations. So these are where they cross boundaries, either within the PPP area or beyond. There are also a further 22 in the case management stroke court system, and a lot of those will be Crown Court cases because of the severity of the potential offending. And in fact, we did have a Crown Court case last week which resulted in a 12-month custodial sentence for this type of activity. And then finally, basically, we have, as you'll be aware, we have financial investigators that do work under the proceeds of crime team and proceeds of crime work, and we look to recover basically money for victims of crimes when we get successful convictions, basically, and we do that work also in conjunction with Reading Borough Council and Oxfordshire County Council. They've got a total of 19 active cases, 4 relating to the confiscation of assets and 14 money laundering cases, and 1 which is both. So I just really want to summarise by sort of saying I feel that given some of the constraints that we had, having to hold open posts and everything else, I think it's a good news story, the end of year sort of out term for the service, you know, and really from my point of view as the sort of service lead for it, I just really want to thank the officers basically for their hard work and the support from this committee basically in delivering that. So thank you.
Moira.
So, Chairman, just to cover off the KPIs, members will be aware that we've got 9 existing priorities within the team. These were agreed in October 2024. As part of the work on the peer review, one of the things that they identified was that that perhaps the KPIs and the measures of volume that we have needed a little bit of a refresh. And they also suggested that we need to make sure that we strongly link back to the corporate priorities or the corporate plans within all 3 authorities as well. So what we've sought to do with this document is to set out the priorities, set out some potential key performance indicators and measures of volume, and then also link them back to the documentation, the corporate plans and the authorities as they are. When we report them back, we're going to split them into KPIs, we'll split them into measures of volume. A lot of what we collect is measures of volume because it does give us trend data and does help us with analysis and also helps us with our strategic assessment that we've brought to this committee before, which then uses us, you know, that Sean and the managers can use to direct us to certain activities where we see changes in that data. Members, if they've got any other priorities, I know there's a lot to get through this evening, so if you see anything that's not there and you want to let me know outside of the meeting, please by all means do that. And then we will look at the presentation of it. This is just to come forward for this evening, and we will look to try and produce it in a more sort of graphic form, which is easier for people to see, and perhaps keep all the data, but maybe only present sort of outstanding elements to members where we feel that that's necessary to do so.
Thank you for a very concise. Thank you for a very concise report. As the new chap here, I was curious on how we as members report the good work we do back to our councils, because unless we get members reading this in detail, so can we, when we're thinking about the key performance indicators, perhaps think about a good way how we can present this back to our councils so they can see the good work that we're clearly doing, and because we won't always be the portfolio holders involved in this, and if we can help show the good work we do, I think it would do nothing but good in that respect. Is any other members would like to add anything there?
Yeah, Councillor Jeffries, I think you make a good point, Chair, and I will definitely be happy to deliver a report back to my fellow peers within Bracknell Forest as we do those special meetings. Damien, I'm sure we can do one for members, and I'd be happy to take that on board, Chair.
And I look forward to Wokingham at some point in the future being involved in that process as well. Thank you.
Chair, just to say that actually it's a very good point that you raised, and it was one of the points that was raised in the peer review, was that basically there was a lot of knowledge around this table, but actually the knowledge and the member survey did reveal that actually there was a feeling from the wider cohort of members that they would like to know more about what the service is doing. So there are a number of proposals we'll come to in the paper that's in the special meeting after this, but things like circulating this end of year report to all members was in there, and also things like attending scrutiny more often at authorities, and information, and also very targeted information bulletins for members. But we'll come on to that in due course. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
I think it wouldn't be such a silly idea actually to bring the Q4 end of year report to each of the licensing committees as well, not just to an all-member briefing, but also bring it to the next licensing committee so they're aware of what's happening across the board.
I'm sure that won't be too difficult for the officers. They have the information. My apologies.
Sorry, yeah, we would be happy to bring that to the next Licensing and Safety Committee meeting.
I believe one of the members here may be on the licensing committees as well. So I think it's about involvement and spreading the good information and hard work we clearly do. And it's not just the lead team, it's all the other members of staff, so that they understand in their patches they're actually having a real effect in their communities. So thank you. Is there anything else we'd like to add?
So I have a question on the paper generically.
Absolutely.
Just a couple of things. You mentioned in the trading standards hiring people, getting funding for 4 years. Does that mean we're putting them on a 4-year contract, or do we then have to work out after 4 years how we're going to fund them?
That's a good question. What I would say is that over a 4-year cycle, basically within the trading standard service, there's never not been jobs. So what we would probably do, I mean, because effectively 4 years people acquire employment rights, as you'll be aware. So I'm not quite sure basically what the advice we've had on that is, but I'm considering in the current lifetime of local authorities that 4 years is a very long time. So it's 4 years from recruitment as well. It's not just from the 1st of April this year. So by the time people start, it would probably going to be around about September, October. So I think it'll take us well into 2029. Basically, which will be also the end of which obviously we'll come on to when we talk about the extension to the agreement as well and the impact of that. But yeah, I'm not sure the exact answer to that question about whether they're on a 4-year fixed term contract or whether they've just been given contracts.
I guess the point behind my question is if, once you're over 2 years, you then have, statutory redundancy and all that sort of stuff that, you need to take that into account. If your funding is going to finish, then you need to make sure that you, it's not nice to make people redundant, but you would have to make them redundant for a reason.
So what I can say in answer to that, Chairman, through you, is that that we've always managed to basically, through careful planning, through holding posts as they've become vacant, we've always managed to find roles within the service for the people that we brought in at that apprenticeship level. So these will be level 6 apprentices, and I've no doubt, basically, with careful planning, that basically we'll be able to accommodate people going forward.
So our second point was on the finance. I mean, I'm glad we came out with a £124 balance. It won't even buy a round around the table. But I think I'm going to get back on my hobby horse and say, basically, I'm surprised that every licensing chairman and executive member isn't writing to the relevant Secretary of State and telling them that we have some 14-year-old statutory fees that need changing because inflation has gone up, significantly over 14 years. And, I'm surprised that, around the country, the Secretary of State, for the relevant Secretary of State, doesn't have, hundreds of letters on his desk saying this needs fixing. Because that would solve most of our finance problems anyway.
Tom, may I just say that we've actually written such a letter through full council on this very subject.
Thank you, Jeremy, for your input.
But you're quite right, Councillor Allen, that it would more or less wipe out that loss. I mean, obviously inflation in that period is significant, and some of the fees are just so low. I mean, you'll be aware that, for example, for a temporary event notice, which can engage us in tens of hours of work, it's £21.
Damien.
Thank you, Chair. You just wanted to point out, in terms of the financial position, the £124 underspend, Bracknell input £90,000 into our budget mid-year in order to balance the budget. So that's not necessarily reflected in the report, and I should say that within the 25-26 budget we've input £195,000 to balance that budget going forward, and that, as Sean has said in his presentation, takes away then the pressure going forward. But we have had to make sure that we've balanced the budget within the Bracknell element of the budget that we put in for this year. So thank you, Chair.
Yeah, sorry, I should have made that clear in the report.
Thank
It's a very
you.
important
Yeah.
point. Thank you.
But I think, just coming back, it's the statutory fees that are the issue, and it would solve not only the fact that we're having to add extra money into the budget, but also the fact that we really need to amend it so that we don't have to have all these posts open.
Thank you. Yes.
I was really pleased to hear that you've had a lot more engagement to the website. What is the magic formula, or what do you think that you've done to make that happen?
I don't know if it's because it's a new, we've had the newer website, but also what we tend to try and do if we put out a Facebook post or a press release is to make sure that there's a link in there to go back to, so that people will get, a short bit of what they want to know about, and then directing them back to go back to our actual website to go and read a little bit more, get a little bit more detail from it. So I think that is working.
Thank you. Could you perhaps answer a little part of the question that was raised about the £90,000? Could you just explain that? And you said the year before you put in 110.
So the Bracknell part of the budget had a pressure this last financial year, 24-25, of £90,000. So in order to balance the budget, Bracknell input that money, which is why you've got the £124 underspend. So without that, the budget as a whole would be £90,000 overspent. And then in 25-26, we have input £195,000 in, which will, hopefully, will balance the budget for 25-26.
Perhaps the other question is, how much did West Berkshire contribute in that? Was that a slightly different?
I think really the reason why this arose was because West Berkshire had been putting the money in on a permanent basis, and Bracknell had been putting the money in, I think it's fair to say, Damien, on a temporary short-term basis. So what this did was it solved that issue once and for all, basically. So the contributions basically for this year are within the percentages that have been agreed across the authorities as part of the budget setting process agreed by this committee. But as you say, it's a significant injection of money from Bracknell Forest Council this year, but it does mean that the budget is in a stronger position, more permanent. Just one point as well, say on the posts. So what I am able to say now is every single post that we have on the establishment is budgeted for now, basically with no pressures, and is capable of being filled. So we have that certainty. We did cut some posts about 2 years ago, basically to deal with some of these income issues, but actually by use of things like grant funding, by use of attracting, for example, this new Department of Health money and everything else, we're starting to build it back up again. So this is one of the real benefits, I think, of the shared services, that we are able to attract significant amounts of grant funding, basically, which helps with the staffing situation as well.
Thank you. My final question to Bracknell is, do you feel you're getting value for money? That's the big question, really, from my perspective. But if you've got any questions on anything like that, please feel free to.
Chair, that's not something that I can answer as an officer. I will hand over to the cabinet member.
If I had my way, we'd have a lot more services offering, more offerings for our community. This is really valuable and important for our community and protecting our residents, and I don't think we could survive without it. But yeah, if I had my way, we'd increase the service offering because at the moment, due to the current pressures and constraints, or the team, should I say, the officers do a fantastic team of balancing, and it's a fine balancing act that they do. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, please.
For the benefit of the newbie, what would you add then? What provisions would you add?
That's a very, very good question. I would definitely, I mean, if you something that's close to me and dear to me and the team also, I suppose, look at it, is fraud. Scamming is, I think, one of the #1 issues we face, not just as a community, but as a nation. I think the crazy figures are about 60% of all crime now is fraud related. We have our elderly that are targeted, and it ranges from everything online. And as you can imagine, you've got perpetrators that could be across the border, they could be in a member state, and it's just, it really is a massive issue for us. And I think I would really put more investment into that. We have also been discussing about delivering workshops for our elderly and engaging with fellow communities within Bracknell Forest. So we've got U3A, we've got Age Concern, and so we were talking about the officers coming around and delivering talks and best practices to the elderly, because they are the most vulnerable. But having said that, you don't have to be vulnerable to be caught out these days. A couple of weeks back, I was speaking to our leader, Mary Temperton, and she said that she received a text message. It looked very legit, and it said, if you need, and there was a link, so she clicked on the link, and it said, if you need your package delivered, please enter the card details. It was $4.99 or a small amount, which really doesn't trigger you. But at that moment, she thought best not to. But I mean, there's a perfect example. Our leader nearly fell for it. It's quite easy. I've nearly fallen for them as well. So sorry to take up much of your time, but I hope that answers your question.
That was a very good question. Well done. I'm sure the officers note, and the briefing I got, it certainly fraud and was very high on their agenda. And it like you said, it won't be Bracknell specific. It's across all three authorities, and it's quite a high profile for members as well. So we do get quite a bit of contact with that. Would anyone, we finished on this one now, are we? Or are we coming to a conclusion?
I think just to say, Chair, that we'll pick up some of the communication stuff that Councillor Jeffrey spoke about on the next item, which, because communication is absolutely critical to the service in terms of informing and encouraging people to report things.
Okay, so from the Chair, I propose that we accept, or over the page, items 2.1 to 2 are effectively to note, but we should vote to agree item 2.3. Is that how you would normally do it here, or would you rather would you have normally voted all three items together in one?
Probably safest to do all three, Chairman.
I thank you for your direction. So I propose that we accept the items 2.1 to 2 to 3. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, Chair. Councillor Jeffries to second.
Okay, all those in favour, please indicate. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item number 12, pages 6, 9 to 90 for those who are following. Moira.
Thank you, Chairman. So just to say, we have an existing strategy which was agreed in June of 2022, and this just serves to review that existing strategy and update it in line with what some of the findings of the peer review, comments that we've had back from members. And more importantly, one of the areas that we're looking to focus on this year is not just the communication element of the strategy, but looking more at engagement. So we have started already to attend pop-up events, so going to where the people are rather than waiting for the people to come to us. So we have historically attended the Summer of Fun events in Bracknell. We attend a range of events in Newbury, Thatcham, Pangbourne as well. But we are looking now to kind of just have short, sharp events where we go into town centres or areas where there's a high footfall of people, and just speak to them. Similarly to what the Thames Valley Police already do, they hold them, and perhaps because we do a lot of work and they're really good partners of ours, that we'd look to accompany them on some of those as well. In West Berkshire, there's also a communications kind of team that are going out and doing these events, which we joined one of them in Northbrook Street in Newbury Town Centre recently as well. So, yeah, that's kind of the main change is the focus really around more engagement rather than just communication. And also the other things, as Sean alluded to earlier, one of the things that was picked up in the peer review is looking at ways in which we can engage our members more fully, because we did have that feedback through the peer review, is that some of the members felt that they didn't know as much about the public protection's work. And I think that's probably because it's such a wide-ranging area. I think everybody who's ever heard me speak about it, I joined the team about 3 years ago, and every time, like every week, I'll get a query and I'll say to Sean, I don't think we do this, and he'll come back and say, actually, yes, we do. So, you know, it's a continuous learning curve. It is a wide-ranging area, but what we're looking to do now is go out and speak to our residents.
Chairman, can I just add to that? So I think I mentioned in the previous report that we've also got funding to bring in a sort of engagement officer into the service, and we have made further applications actually across the three authorities for police and crime commissioner funding, basically, which has helped us in the past. So those bits of areas work around fraud and engagement with the public about that are actually conducted across the three authorities. And again, we work very, very closely with internal teams, whether that's public health, or whether that's basically community safety teams within the authorities as well. So, as Moira said, engagement is really, really important. We need people. Our model says that we want to inform people to avoid them getting into trouble in the first place, but when they have, we really encourage people to come to us because the public are the eyes and ears of the service. They allow us to identify these issues and deal with them.
Thank you. Do members have any questions on this?
Yeah, Councillor Allen. Under the strategic priorities, it's got climate change. In what way are you, I mean, given it's public protection, are you protecting us from climate change or or protecting people being scammed about climate change? I just wonder where this is going.
Work closely with our colleagues in the environmental teams across all three authorities. Actually, we do a lot of work around air quality monitoring. So there's that kind of work that we do. In West Berkshire, through our licensing committee, we have a scheme where we subsidise electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles. So we are conscious that it is a real priority for all three authorities, and on that basis, we're quite keen to support the wider corporate plans as well.
Chair, can I just add that there's also a big piece of work going on around energy performance. So you'll be aware that the new housing legislation is coming through later in this year, the renters' rights legislation. But in that, there are proposals around improving the energy performance on the private rented sector. But we're doing a big piece of work ahead of that to look at the compliance rates in the existing rented sector. And we've done some work around, mapping areas that may be sort of problematic and everything else. So there are a number of links in the work that we do, basically, which link back to climate.
Just to follow up on that, one of the reasons I mentioned it is because I don't know whether you're aware, but is it Solar Berkshire? They're across Berkshire. Recommending solar panels, and basically people can say I want some solar panels, and other companies will bid to do the work. And I know that Fusion 8 lost their certification halfway through the process, and a number of people across Berkshire have paid their £2,000 deposit and got diddly squat. So I'm just wondering whether you're aware of that and what protection those people have.
So, I mean, I don't know anything about those particular companies, and I wouldn't certainly comment on any of that. But what I would say is that we have dealt with a number of issues relating to, let's call it malpractice within the green energy sector, including in the last couple of years, we had a very, very big prosecution where we covered a number of staff got suspended prison sentences, and the company was fined a substantial amount of money. We did recover several £100,000 of compensation for victims, but it is an area basically where it's like anything, where there is a market where people want to do the right thing. There'll potentially always be people will be looking to earn some money out of that. But I'm obviously not referencing any particular organisation or business.
I think my concern here is that the councils have been recommending that people go through this scheme, Solar Berkshire, whatever it is, and we are recommending it, and our residents have lost money on it thus far. And I think there was a BBC report saying I think it might have been the West Berkshire area. That I think they'd had 52 people lose their deposit or something, so it's not an insignificant number of people.
Damien.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. We do have a scheme within Bracknell Forest. I can't talk necessarily about West Berkshire and Wokingham, called Solar Together, which is a scheme that we do promote. And certainly the scheme that we've had over the last 2 years has been extended into this year, and we've had no reports of any issues come back through anybody using that scheme within Bracknell Forest. So only successful stories of solar panels being installed along with batteries as well, and so far it's been fine. So I can't comment on your specific case, but the ones that I'm aware of within Bracknell Forest have all been successful.
In which case, I'll report one to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bearing in mind what's just been said, are you aware of any issues within West Berkshire and or Wokingham? We're not really here.
I'm not. I mean, as I say, from time to time we do get complaints that relate to. It's quite often, you know, the case I was referring to was maintenance. You know, but I'm not aware. But we do get some complaints from time to time, but not. I'm not referencing any particular company in saying that.
Okay, thank you. Would it be worthwhile that we have a think about if local authorities are promoting someone, that someone just has a look around and maybe talk to see if we're actually doing the right thing, if you see what I'm saying, without throwing somebody under a bus? It's perhaps something that we should have a little look at off. So that would be quite helpful. I know it might be a little bit extra work for the officers, but we should be recommending people who are appropriate, and they come with a local authority guarantee effectively, or an endorsement at least in that respect. So that would be helpful, even if it's an informal report back to members. Absolutely, due diligence is exactly perfect. Do we have any other points raised on this particular item? And to thank the officers for the work they've done on this. Although at this point, I'd propose that we accept and approve the papers before us this evening. Do I have a seconder?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Jeffries to second.
Okay, thank you. Could members please indicate, all those in favour, please raise your hand. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And then moving on. I think it's at this point that we turn around and say that is, it's difficult to see it when you're talking, that the items on the agenda have been dealt with, and that the meeting will now come to its conclusion. I thank everyone for attending, both those who come present concerns were raised and it fed back to me about service provision from West Berkshire to the JPPC and officers who supply that service to both Wokingham and Bracknell and indeed in West Berkshire. That the leader of West Berkshire, Jeff Brooks, has undertaken that there will be no service change, officer movements, or indeed any service re-evaluation coming through that system. So Councillor Jeffries has asked me to express that, so to take any possible concerns, and that should Wokingham join, they would be welcomed with open arms, and hopefully we can bring any misunderstandings or miscommunications brought to a conclusion at that point. So I would just enter that into the minutes as a record, just to help members and any of their discussions with their members in both appropriate authorities. And it's we have our next meeting will be on the 6th of October. Oh, that's actually at West Berkshire. That's handy. So I believe an officer was to indicate. So Moira.
So Chairman, just to say that we will be, at the closing of this meeting, there will be an extraordinary meeting immediately afterwards. If there's anybody that's joining us and watching remotely, there will be a separate stream on YouTube for that meeting. But if anybody's wishing us, so Councillor Cottam and Rosalind, anybody else joining us online that wishes to do that, they can use the same Teams link that they've had to join the second meeting.
Thank you very much. And with that, I declare the meeting closed this evening.